Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has an approval rating that I would not have thought was possible. Every now and then the story will cross my path, cross my feed, cross whatever. It'll get in front of me in some form or fashion, and I'll be like, that's got to be a typo. This was one of those times. I thought they must have forgotten to put in the 2 or the 3 or whatever ahead of the first number, because certainly it can't really be that low. Any guesses? Any guesses? Had you asked me before, and honestly, if you said, what is Brandon Johnson's approval rating in Chicago? I would have said, oh, it's probably really low, something like, 25 or 30% max. He's probably about as unpopular as Congress or whatever. Nope, I would have been very wrong. According to Not the Bee, Chicago mayor drops to historic 6.6% approval rating. I mean, Chairman Mao, I'm sure, had a higher approval rating than that. And he was murdering his people. How in the world is Brandon Johnson that unpopular, and how is he still in office if he's that unpopular? Maybe it's coming from a right wing source. That's probably what it is. It's coming from a right wing source. It's probably like Cheryl Atkinson does these polls, and sometimes it's like 94% of people that reply to her poll think that Trump is the handsomest man on earth or whatever. I'm not ripping on her. I love her to death. I'm just saying that that's probably where this poll's coming from, right? I mean, how can you get to 6.6%? It's got to be from a right wing organization. According to the article over at Not the Bee, it looks like Chicago's love affair with far-left Mayor Brandon Johnson is going about as well as deep dish pizza at a New York thin crust convention. Not bad. So, who did it? Whose poll is this? Politico's. I mean, can't make this up. I hope you can't. According to the Politico poll, his favorability is 6.6%. Neutral is 12.3%. So there's not even like a whole lot of people that don't care. Unfavorable is 79.9%. 80% of the population of Chicago does not want Brandon Johnson to be their mayor. And 1.1% have never heard of him. Yeah, there's always going to be those people. M3 Strategies just surveyed 696 likely voters on February 20th through 21st, 2025. So what was that? Late last week? Shockingly, only 6.6% of them had anything nice to say about Johnson. Meanwhile, a cool 80% gave him the political equivalent of a 1-star Yelp review. Wow. I mean, that's awful. As Nick Freitas says, wow, Chicago's a real mess. Have they tried electing Democrats? Yes, forever. In the words of those surveyed, here's how they described Mayor Johnson. Oh, how heartwarming. I'm not going to read all that. Racist, incompetent. Oh, wow. And then, of course, he's following who I thought was really the worst mayor in America at the time. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Beetlejuice, as we call her. But yeah, oh, man. I mean, how does it get any worse? What were the top issues? Crime was the number one issue, 67%. Of course, they have those amazing gun laws that prevent everybody except for criminals from having firearms. High taxes, boom. Inflation, which, to be clear, Chicago's taxes aren't like in the top 5, I don't think. Last I checked. As far, there are cities, believe it or not, that have higher taxes than Chicago. Inflation, that's bad, and that is what it is. Immigration control, 24%. I would have thought that would have been higher, because you always see this. We see these videos from the Chicago, the town hall meetings and all that stuff, where you got people going up there and talking about why, or asking why are they giving so much money to illegal aliens, while the people of Chicago, the citizens of Chicago, are suffering so much. So yeah, I thought that would have been higher. Public schools, racism, school choice, reproductive freedom. It's only 4%. Wow. LGBTQ plus rights, only 3%. So yeah, Chicago, they don't like their crime at all, and nor should they. I used to love to go to Chicago. I stayed at the Hilton in Chicago one time. This is the Hilton, as I recall. I think it was the Hilton where Al Capone stayed, and now I'm actually questioning whether it was the Hilton. I think it was. It's been a long time, but I remember going there, and that was my first taste of Chicago inflation. Now, again, keep in mind this was at least a decade ago. I think this was about probably, we'll say, 15 years ago. Okay, I was there for a conference that I was speaking at, and I ordered a burger through room service. Didn't check the prices. It was a $50 burger, and I assure you, it was not a $50 burger. I paid $50 for it, or at least my company did. And I was thinking to myself, my gosh, this city, if this is really, because I mean, yeah, at the time I'm living in California, I used to live in New York. I've seen high prices. This was ludicrous. I thought to myself, if they continue down this road, if they just keep electing Democrats after Democrats after Democrats, Chicago's up there with Philadelphia and D.C. and Baltimore, for that matter, as far as cities that are massively corrupt. Their leadership has, decades of corruption have become embedded in the governments in those various cities, and Chicago is one of the worst. And I was thinking, while eating my $50 burger, that if this keeps up, they're finally, at some point, they're going to get fed up with it, because things are going to get so bad for the people that they're no longer going to, they're finally going to wake up to how bad the Democrat Party is. This isn't a Brandon Johnson thing. Is he awful? You betcha. He's one of the worst mayors in the nation. But he's not the worst, number one. Number two, they just keep getting bad mayors over and over and over again. Bad mayors, bad governors, bad leadership, bad legislature. Chicago as a city, Illinois as a state, I think we might be on the verge of seeing them wake up and realizing that when you have sustained, essentially what feels like indefinite Democrat rule, that it will eventually collapse. Thank you for watching that clip. I hope you loved it. Two things now that you're done watching the clip. Number one, find all my stuff and be sure to follow me on Rumble, YouTube, whatever, X, Getter, Brighteon, BitChute, those places. Go to jdrucker.com/find, jdrucker.com/find. Number two, please help support our newest sponsor. You can go to jdrucker.com/infowars, jdrucker.com/infowars, and shop the Alex Jones store. Help to keep an important piece of the media alive and well. jdrucker.com/infowars.